Books give you brain power. Let's talk about it. Brain power at a different level of audiobooks. And a big reason because of that is the amount of focus you give to it and how it strains your brain. Our brain was not actually built for reading, if you didn't know. Our brain is built for audio. It actually is. So if you leave a kid around adults talking, eventually that kid will learn how to talk. Leave a kid around books in a library, don't teach them how to read, they never will learn how to read unless you teach them how to use that technology. Many people forget that reading books, learning how to read, is a form of technology. And one thing that once you do learn how to read, your brain can never stop reading. Like, here's an example. Look at some words. Your brain will just automatically interpret it, right? As long as it's your language, right? And you know the words. Even if you just, I'll tell myself, don't let myself read this, and just look at it, stare at it, your brain will read it. You can't turn it off once you learn, because we're actually very lucky. It's almost a miracle that our brains are actually allowed to read. If evolution was just a little different, we would not be able to read, to look at squiggly lines and interpret it and visualize it and process it. So let's talk about the benefits, and then we'll talk about how what the books actually do to your brain. Okay, these benefits, you can go ahead and speed read it, but I'll go ahead and say them out loud and work it for you, because you might be multitasking right now listening to this course, and that's totally fine. The benefits: your decision making is enhanced, your prefrontal cortex is now stronger, memory enhanced, cognitive performance enhanced, enhanced neuroplasticity. You learn faster, you offset dementia, writing skills, all this stuff again from reading physical books. Your critical thinking is improved, your stress is reduced, knowledge enhancement, vocabulary expanded, concentration and focus. Books will help you with that. Let's talk about the brain power from books. Let's look at the similarities. So with audiobooks, what we see is that the Broca's area, where language processing is activated. Wernicke's area, comprehension of spoken and written language, is activated as well. We're also seeing development and stimulation in the frontal lobe, where we see reasoning and comprehension, and the temporal lobes, memory and speech. Of course, we have some overlap here. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for you guys. Now, the differences with physical books is that we see spatial and visual and sensory activation, much more of that. We don't really get that with audio. So the big difference we're seeing the visual cortex and parietal lobes, specifically the occipital temporal lobe, where we're interpreting the words, the sentences, into then something we could start to process. So again, the motor cortex, the sensory cortex, the parietal lobe, visual, all that helps improve the depth of cognitive processing and memory retention. Okay, just think of it as more attachment points, right? We're making the information stickier because we're using more learning styles. Let's go over here. Welcome to my backyard. So the nice thing about audiobooks, so the difference with audiobooks is that the auditory cortex is very, very stimulated, and the temporal lobe is right there, just so you get a checkpoint, but right there, auditory cortex. And the problem is that we're having less engagement of visual and spatial areas like we do with books. That's why when you're really learning something, right, take away the neuroscience stuff, the boring stuff. When you're really learning something in school, you do the textbook, right? You don't get an audio book of the textbook, right? We want the visuals, we want the graphs, we want to take notes, we want to make it as active and interactive as possible. The more senses, the better. So here's a little bit of what we discussed, right? Hopefully you could see that, the similarities, the differences, and even there's some more in detail, right? There are neuroscientists and PhDs that know this, that yes, you could take matcha, you could take these supplements, but there's no superhuman brain pill right now that can give you the brain benefits like books do. Just think of it, natural intuition. Your brain is a muscle. There's no muscle pill that I could send to you, sure, steroids, that'll blow you up without horrible consequences. There's no pill I can give you that'll enhance your memory so then you can just remember people's names to their faces and things like that. So next thing, I just want to show you some of the benefits. So go ahead and take a quick look at that. But of course, that's all we have. The next thing we're talking about is who are these rich people that are reading so much? Do I even need to read a book a week? Do CEOs even read that much? And I'll even look at their secret habits and break it down for you.